This video has been kindly sponsored by Squarespace. Hi everyone! I took the week off to give my hands a bit of a rest, and now I feel like I'm ready to get back into all of the crochet and knitting challenges that I love doing. Today I'm starting one that's based on different aesthetics, kind of similar to the color challenges I did in the past, but this time it's not restricted to specific colors. For this challenge, I'll be doing a whimsical aesthetic. The actual definition of whimsical is playfully quaint or fanciful, especially in an appealing and amusing way. And when you think of that as a fashion aesthetic, it's basically, in my opinion, anything that's fun to look at, lighthearted, and something that isn't taken too seriously. In terms of fashion in particular, the whimsical aesthetic can be just about any color combinations that invoke fun emotions, adds more personality to your wardrobe, and releases your inner child while also still adhering to your style of today. It's all about mixing the two and having fun. There's also a bunch of subgenres of the whimsical aesthetic like whimsigoth and whimsical twee. So for this challenge, I have to create 3 pieces that fall within the whimsical aesthetic, and now that we know exactly what that aesthetic is and how many pieces that I have to make, let's go ahead and go through the yarn. I just finished going through all of the yarn that I want to use for the projects in this challenge. I don't have my iPad right now. My fiance is using it, so I have been trying to choose the color palettes first, and then later tonight I can choose the designs. But I do know that I want to make a skirt, a apple bag, and a scarf. So for the skirt, I'm gonna do it like I do my other maxi skirts. It's gonna be 3-tiered with ruffles, and it's gonna look really cute. And these are the colors that I'm choosing. It's gonna be pink and green with accents of cream and purple, and I feel like this would be really cute when done correctly. And I also want to include this ruffled lace as well on the tiers, either that or do ruffles like I usually do, but I think using this would just make it look cuter. All of this would just make a really cute skirt, and it's going to be very sporadic. I'm going to do what I feel looks best in that moment and just hope it comes out nice. The second piece I'm making is not my design whatsoever, but it's a piece that I've been wanting to make for a very long time now, and it is an apple bag. So I'm going to use this as the base of the bag, and then for the strap, what I was thinking of was making it these 3 shades of green so I can make a caterpillar strap. So it could be like the caterpillar is coming out of the apple or something like that. And then lastly, I saw this scarf on Instagram, and I was like, this would be so cute if it was knitted or crocheted, and just like having different types of yarn put together, so like the unevenness of it is on purpose. So I put together some colors because I did want it to still work with the whimsical theme. I have some green, some blue, some yellow, and some red. I was gonna add some purple in there, but I'm not too sure. I was even thinking of adding this for some bulkiness, but I really have to sit down and design it for this one in particular. But I do know that this is gonna be the color palette, and I think it would look really cute. So that all in all the 3 projects put together is using an array of different colors. It's very whimsical, it's very colorful, it's very pretty, and hopefully these all come out the way that I'm envisioning. Since I don't have the iPad right now, I'm gonna go ahead and start with the apple bag, since there's a tutorial on YouTube that I can follow in the meantime, and then later tonight I can start designing the maxi skirt and the scarf. I first started with the apple bag using this tutorial on YouTube, and to make it easier on myself so I can just do whatever while I work, I skimmed through the video and wrote down all the instructions, which I'm really glad I did so I can have more fun with it. I will say that this bag is definitely intermediate, which was no issue for me, but I can definitely see a lot of beginners getting confused by it. But it went by smoothly, and it's funny because I wanted to make this last fall, but I didn't feel like concentrating on the tutorial, so I never did it. And now after finishing the seed sections of both panels, I'm like, all I had to do was lock in for 2 seconds and I could have already had this apple bag. So far, I have finished half of each of the panels. I'm right on the part where you have to add the stem and then go back in with the beige yarn and do, I think, 2 more rows, and then after do the red part. But man, this pattern is intense. I've never really done a pattern with this many steps and like making sure that everything is a specific stitch count and then which stitches you have to do in which section. And if I'm being honest, I have no idea how people make patterns like this. Like, how do you just think, I want to make an apple bag? I need to put 3 treble crochets here in order to do it, and I need to put 16 double crochets here to do it. Like, you guys are just very smart and talented, because I don't think I could ever do that. This one's a little bit wonky because the stitch count was off and I've just been winging it, but for the most part it still looks like an apple. This is just going to be the back of the bag and this is going to be the front since it looks nicer. You guys, I officially did it. I finished both panels for the bag and now all I have to do is sew the apple together and then the stem there and then make the strap. So I'm gonna start the strap right now, but I'm not gonna finish it until tomorrow, but I just want to get it started, so all I have to do is finish it and then put everything together. For the straps, all I did was a chain of 9, which gave me 8 stitches in each row and made a strap with a total of 75 rows. For the parts where I wanted it to look like a caterpillar, all I did was work from the lightest green to the darkest green and worked each color for 2 rows before switching to the next. Once the strap was complete, I slip stitched both ends together, making sure the seam was on the inside of it, then single crocheted the strap onto 2 apple bags until it was attached. The first piece I finished was the apple bag, and this is what it looks like all completed, kind of. So I didn't add any lining just yet. I want to go to Joann's and get a nice fabric for it that matches the apple bag, and if Joann's doesn't have one, I'll probably just get one online. But for the most part, it is done. I really am happy with how the strap came out also. I only added a leaf to the front of the bag so I can make sure that I know, like, okay, this is the front of the bag. Like, I showed you guys this part earlier, but this is actually the front of the bag. I will say adding the strap to the bag kind of scrunched up the panels a little bit, especially right here where the curve is at the bottom. And it's not a big deal or anything, but it was something that I had to make sure that I kept in mind while adding the other panel because it wasn't matching in size. But besides that, this was actually really easy to do. It didn't take very long. I think it took 4 or 5 hours to do, which isn't bad at all. And yeah, I want to make a green apple. I think that would be really cute. And then I actually was gonna add little caterpillar legs to the strap, but I just forgot to do that until this very moment. So maybe I could do that later on. But yeah, I have an apple bag. This is really cute and I'm really happy with it. So if you want to make this, go ahead and use the pattern that's linked in the description box below. I finally got the iPad back and tried to design the other 2 projects. For the scarf, I was having a hard time choosing which colors should go where, and even after deciding on a color scheme, I was still doubting myself and couldn't make a decision. But of course, I ended up just saying screw it and just let myself choose the colors as I worked so that it was more intuitive. I did the exact same thing for the maxi skirt. I drew the colors that I knew I wanted on there, but I knew I wasn't going to adhere to the design 100%. Originally for the scarf, I wanted each color to represent a different crochet stitch, so I went through my crochet book and chose stitches at random and started working them, which originally came out looking cool, but then I was starting to not like it as much as I initially did due to the weight of some of the yarn being too big or too small compared to the other ones I used. And I know this was the intention, but I feel like in order to make the scarf that I originally wanted to make, I'd probably have to buy specific yarn for it so that it would be an intentional chaotic instead of just chaotic. So I started all of it over and just made a scarf with basic double crochet, starting with a chain of 27. Here is what I have of the scarf so far. I've restarted this about 5 or 6 times just because I was not set on how I wanted to look. Even though I did design the color scheme, I was still iffy about how I wanted it. And I also added another color into the mix just because it felt off. Like, it just looked like it's the type of scarf that needs more than the colors that I had originally. I wanted it to be very textured and fun, but a lot of the textured yarn was just really off and it didn't look good. Like, sometimes having different size yarns work together really well, but with this it just wasn't looking the way I wanted, so I just went with a very plain double crochet scarf instead. Even though it's very plain and simple, I think it will still work with a lot of outfits and just add more whimsy to it and everything. It is the next day, and so far I've gotten done basically 2 sets of the color. And what I mean by that is I started with red and I worked all the way up until right here, and then I restarted this exact color pattern again. And so I feel like I can do that 2 to 3 more times to get the length that I want. I don't have a specific length in mind. I just want it to be long enough so I personally can consider it a scarf. I'm just gonna continue working on this scarf and I'll see you when it's done. Once I finished the scarf, I worked a red single crochet border around it, which I initially was iffy about, but I ended up being okay with it. For the ends of the scarf, I added 10 tassels, 2 for each color, and used my crochet hook to pull up a loop with the tassels, then use that loop to tie the tassels onto the scarf. Then I trimmed the length of the tassels when they were all attached, and my scarf was complete. The next piece I finished is this beautiful scarf, and this scarf, I was really doubting myself for some reason. Like, every time I did probably like 4 or 5 rows, I was like, no, this is ugly, I need to restart. And then I restarted, and then I was like, no, I don't like this either, and restarted again and again until I was like, you know what, this is what we're going with. And this is how it came out. It's very, very pretty. I wasn't liking the fact that I did only double crochets at first, but I like it now, especially with the border and the tassels on it, of course. And then when I put it on, it's very cute. And it just adds personality to any outfit. Like, you could wear just a basic full black outfit or whatever color you decide to wear and just throw this on for more personality. I haven't made a maxi skirt since my brown one, I think from 2023, and I was incredibly excited to make another one. I altered the pattern a bit to make it better than the other two, and first started by making the waistband with a chain of 9 and 1 row of half double crochets. From row 2 to row 44, I worked half double crochets in the back loop only to give the waistband a ribbing effect. On row 44, I slip stitched both ends of the ribbing together so it can join in the round. Then I took my elastic band that I measured to my waist and placed it on the inside of the waistband and single crocheted around the elastic band so that it can attach to the band. For my previous skirts, I didn't add any elastic, but instead made a drawstring, which was nice, but the only issue with that is that the more you wear the skirt, the more the waistband loses durability. So with the elastic, no matter how much you wear it, the waistband will always match the size of your waist. Once it was all attached, I had a little loop that was poking out, but I ended up sewing that down later on so that it wouldn't bother me when wearing the skirt. I used 2 stitch markers to mark the sides of the waistband, which were the areas where my hips would be when wearing the skirt. I attached my next color, which was pink, onto the stitch where I slip stitched the waistband in the row, and then worked single crochet all around. When I got to the stitch markers, I added an increase into those stitches, which is just 2 single crochets. Then the rest of the row is worked with normal single crochets. At the end of the row, I slip stitched into the first stitch, chain 2, and turn my work. I repeated another row of working normal single crochets with increases in the stitch marker stitches. At the end of that row, I slip stitched into the first stitch, chained 1, then turned my work. On the third row of the body, I worked a single crochet increase into every single stitch until the end of the row. On row 4 of the body, I ended up working 1 row of normal double crochets. Then for the 4th row, I needed the skirt to be bigger for my hips, so I ended up working a double crochet increase into every second stitch. So for the first stitch, I worked a normal double crochet. Then for the second stitch, I worked 2 double crochets. Then I repeated this for the entire row. Once those setup rows were done, I ended up freehanding the rest of the skirt. Here are all the rows I ended up doing, as well as which colors and stitches I did for each of the tiers, in case you were curious. I do have to say that I was scared to combine these colors together, since this was the first time I'm making a maxi skirt with multiple colors instead of just different shades of one. But these colors were simply so beautiful together. It reminded me of spring, and I'm just really happy with the color scheme for the skirt. For row 15 of the first tier, I worked my row in the front loops only. This may be different for you, but I chose which side this row of stitches would be on so that the inside of the skirt has the leftover stitches I didn't work in. So since the inside of my skirt was facing me, I knew that if I worked in the front loops, which are the loops closest to me, when I wear the skirt, the loops that aren't being worked in would be on the inside. Doing this allows me to have a space where I can work the second tier after I finish the first tier. I hope that makes sense. After a total of 18 rows, my first tier was complete and I was really happy with it. To start the second tier, I folded the skirt down and looked for the row of open stitches I didn't work into on row 15 and attached my yarn and hook. I then worked double crochets into each of the loops and then freehanded the rest of the second and eventually the third tier as well. I will say working on this skirt was easier than the past 2 skirts, maybe because I've done it before, but even with tweaks to the pattern, the skirt only took me 4 days to make. I took 1 day to make the waistband, 1 day for the first tier, and then 1 day each for the second and third tiers, which was strange for me considering the other ones took forever to do. But for my previous skirts, I did increase on both the first tier and the second tier into every stitch of the first row. So this skirt does have less stitches, which I was happy about because it took less time to make, but it still has the fullness of the other 2 skirts. This is a bit dangerous though, because now I want to make a whole bunch knowing how fast I can make them. Once all the tiers were done, I sewed on this ribbon I got from Joann's, which I realized was not enough for all 3 tiers, so I only added it to the back of the first tier. But then I was basically done with the skirt. The last piece I made, which was the longest one and my personal favorite, is this colorful maxi skirt. I think I made a maxi skirt with granny squares with these colors a couple years ago for a spring crochet video, but this is the first time I've ever made a ruffle maxi skirt with multiple colors that aren't the same tone. And I was pretty scared to do this, but with these types of skirts, I feel like choosing any color it's pretty forgiving. And I'm just really happy with how this came out. So if you can see here, I mentioned it earlier, but the ribbon that I added to the first tier, I couldn't do it for the second and third because I ended up running out. And even though I still have this long one right here, this is unfortunately not enough to finish even the second tier, even though it's the same size as the first. Like the first one took a lot and I was surprised. And I think these go for like $4.99, so I think that eventually I'll gradually buy the ribbon so that I can finish the skirt, because I do want each layer to have the little ribbon because I think it adds more personality to it. And I did not weave in all my ends. I always forget that nowadays. But yeah, I would say the only thing I don't like about this skirt is when I'm wearing it, it kind of poofs out right here. But that's mainly because of how I did my increases. Like I did 2 rows of single crochet increases on the hips, and then after that I did 1 regular row of double crochet, and then the row after that I did double crochet increase into every other stitch. I feel like that every other stitch part is the reason why it looks like this. I don't think my other 2 skirts did that because I increased in every single stitch, but then that adds more stitches to the skirt in general. So I feel like if I did the every other stitch before the row of just regular double crochets, Like if I switched row 3 and row 4 around, I feel like it wouldn't have made such a curve like this. Or maybe it would have, I don't know. It's not that big of a deal, especially if I'm wearing a shirt over it. Like most likely the shirt's gonna cover the waistband and cover up to like right here, which is fine. So I like the skirt. I'm happy with how it came out. And I can't wait to make a whole bunch of other skirts. Like I have 3 maxi skirts right now. How cool is that? I will say though, my green one is probably my absolute favorite just because it goes more with my wardrobe than all the others. These days I've been wanting to make more pieces that have colors that I usually don't wear that much. Like for example, this scarf, it's so colorful, and usually my wardrobe consists of just green, brown, black and white, but I and probably every single one of us nowadays needs more color in our life because this world is something else, if you understand what I'm getting at. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed these pieces, and if you liked this challenge, let me know which aesthetic I should try next. And I was thinking of doing like Frutiger Arrow. I don't know if that's how you say it, but I think that would be an interesting challenge because I'm not seeing any crochet or knitting meshing with that, but at the same time I'm already thinking of some ideas that I could potentially do for that. But if you think of any other aesthetics that I should try, just let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! Before we go, I want to quickly say thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform that allows you to create your very own website. If you want to design your own website, yet you don't know where to get started exactly, Squarespace offers a wonderful amount of templates to get you started. There's numerous amounts of categories to choose from, whether you're wanting to create a portfolio or a blog, plus you can customize them even further with their easy-to-use designing interface. If you're someone who's wanting to sell products, whether they're physical, digital, or even memberships, Squarespace has all the tools you need to get started, like their commerce tool, which allows you to track orders you've received and even offer ways to develop your shop even further. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch your site, go to squarespace.com/ecoshun for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you again to Squarespace for sponsoring this video.